Imagine, just for a second, that you're a lead detective walking into a crime scene. But there's no body, no suspect, and honestly, no clear timeline. So how on earth do you solve a mystery that hasn't even been fully defined yet? Well, you definitely don't start by just randomly questioning people on the street. No, you start by looking at the case files. You look at what other detectives have investigated in the past, what clues they missed, and exactly where their trails went cold. In the academic world, your upcoming research project is exactly like that unsolved case. In your review of related literature, that is your ultimate sprawling evidence board.
Welcome to today's Explainer. If you have ever stared at a blank screen, just completely overwhelmed by the idea of writing an RRL or review of related literature, trust me, you are not alone. Today, we're going to transform this dreaded, often misunderstood academic hurdle into a highly structured, totally manageable investigation. And to make things a bit more interesting, we're going to use criminology and forensic science as our testing ground to show you exactly how to track down those academic clues.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the foundation of research, defining the evidence.
Okay, let's break down this definition. The review of related literature is an organized discussion of published and unpublished materials related to your specific research topic. But notice how I really emphasize the word organized there? Yeah, this isn't just some random book report where you summarize everything you've ever read. In fields like criminology or forensic science, the RRL serves as the absolute foundation of your study. It explains the theories, the concepts, and the existing practices related to your topic. And why do we do this? Well, mainly to avoid duplicating work that's already been done. But more importantly, it strengthens your theoretical framework and guides you in identifying exactly what methods you should use for your own investigation.
Now, this brings us to a distinction that trips up so many researchers. You're going to hear the terms related literature and related studies tossed around a lot, but they are absolutely not the same thing. Look at that grouping on the left. Related literature refers to your background context. We're talking things like books on criminological theories, government policies, police operational manuals, or court decisions. On the flip side, related studies refers to actual previous research investigations that mirror what you're trying to do. Think published university theses, qualitative studies, or quantitative reports. You really need both to build a rock-solid case.
Moving on to Section 2, hunting for academic evidence, searching the databases.
So, to start gathering our primary sources, the first-hand original materials like interview transcripts or court decisions, and our secondary sources like review articles, the secret really lies in mastering the databases, places like Google Scholar, JSTOR, or ScienceDirect. And here is where you'll see just how powerful Boolean operators are. Think of these as the filters on your magnifying glass. If you type cybercrime and students, you are demanding the database only give you files that mention both terms, which sharply narrows your search. If you use OR, like police or law enforcement, you broaden your net to catch either term. And if you use NOT, like violence not domestic, you can actively exclude irrelevant cases from your search entirely. It's a total game changer.
Oh, and here's a quick pro tip for your hunt. Truncation. I know it sounds complex, but it's really just a tactical trick. By putting an asterisk at the end of a root word, like criminologist, the database is going to automatically pull up variations: criminology, criminological, and criminologist. It saves you from having to type out every possible word variation and makes absolutely sure no relevant evidence slips through the cracks.
All right, Section 3, the 6-step investigation, your research workflow.
Let's walk through this 6-step workflow and see how it builds your entire RRL without you drowning in information. Step 1 is identifying your keywords. So if your topic is online sexual harassment, you wouldn't just search that one exact phrase. You'd include keywords like cyber harassment or gender-based violence. Step 2 is searching the databases using those Boolean operators we literally just talked about. Step 3 is evaluating what you find. Step 4 is organizing it all. Step 5 is synthesizing the findings. And finally, Step 6 is citing it properly, using APA, MLA, or Chicago style, whatever your professor wants.
Let's zoom in on Step 3 for a second, evaluating your sources. You wouldn't trust a random tip from a shady informant, right? Same rule applies here. You must interrogate your sources before you use them. Check the author's credibility. Is it from a legit peer-reviewed journal? Look at the publication year. Ideally, you want recent studies, like from the last 5 to 10 years, so your investigation relies on the most current data out there. And really scrutinize their methodology to ensure their findings are actually reliable and valid.
Which brings us to Section 4, finding the missing pieces, the research gap.
What we are really looking for here is the research gap. The gap is the area that hasn't been fully explored yet.
And there are 5 distinct types you can hunt for. A methodological gap means previous studies used limited methods, maybe they only use surveys, and hey, your study is going to use in-depth interviews. A population gap means a certain demographic was entirely excluded from past studies. A contextual gap means a theory hasn't been tested in your specific location yet. A theoretical gap means limited conceptual frameworks were applied. And an empirical gap? Well, that means the previous findings are just completely inconsistent and need clearing up.
I really want to emphasize this heavily. The gap is where your study lives. Identifying this missing piece is the entire reason you are conducting your investigation in the first place. Your RRL isn't just about patting past researchers on the back. It's about proving exactly what they missed and showing how your research is going to finally answer those lingering questions. It's your time to shine.
Moving right along to Section 5, building the evidence board, organizing and synthesizing.
So, how do we take dozens of academic papers and actually make sense of them? Well, you start by organizing them logically. You can group them by shared themes, by the variables they measure, by their methodology, or even chronologically to see how a concept evolved over time. To do this effectively, I highly recommend using a research article extraction matrix. As you read a paper, you log the author, the year, their methodology, and their major findings directly into a table like this one. When you take a step back and look at this matrix, you'll instantly be able to synthesize commonalities. You'll see patterns, like, oh wow, 3 different authors in 2021 all found the exact same correlation. It literally takes the chaos right out of the literature.
And right alongside your extraction matrix, you should be building an annotated bibliography. Think of this as your ultimate structured case log. For every key piece of literature you review, you don't just write down the citation. You follow it up with a short summary of its purpose and findings, an evaluation of its credibility, and most importantly, a reflection on its direct relevance to your current study. Let's look at a practical example of this. Say you log a 2023 study by Dela Cruz about cybercrime awareness among college students. Your summary notes that students were moderately aware of the risks, but totally lacked legal knowledge. Your evaluation confirms it's from a credible, peer-reviewed journal. But the real magic happens in the relevance section. You explicitly state that this study supports your present research by identifying the baseline knowledge of students, which perfectly sets up your own project-attested intervention. See how beautifully everything connects?
Okay, Section 6, Avoiding Fatal Research Errors, Ethics and Pitfalls.
Let's quickly run through some common pitfalls that can completely derail your hard work. A massive one is copy-pasting. Plagiarism is a fatal academic error. You absolutely must paraphrase properly and respect intellectual property rights. No excuses there. Other fatal errors include relying on only outdated references. Remember, keep it within the last 5 to 10 years. Or suffering from a complete lack of organization where you just sort of dump paragraphs together. Failing to clearly state the research gap means you haven't justified your study's existence at all. And always make sure you are using the proper citation style required by your institution.
If you take absolutely nothing else away from this entire explainer, please let it be this golden rule. Focus on synthesis rather than simple summarization. Please don't just list facts in a vacuum, writing paragraph after paragraph of author A said this, author B said that. That is just a book report. Synthesis means you blend those findings together to build a compelling narrative. Always connect the literature back to your study.
At the end of the day, the review of related literature is not just some annoying academic hurdle to jump over. It is the vital foundation that validates your entire investigation. It proves you've done the legwork, you know the history, and you found the missing piece of the puzzle. So as you organize your academic evidence board today, I want to leave you with this final thought to challenge you. Look closely at the existing research. What gaps remain unanswered in those case files, and how exactly will your studies solve the mystery? Get out there and start your investigation.